Hey everybody, Angela and Kristen is here. I actually managed to tell her to get on the other side of the camera here. I managed to convince her to join me because what we are doing today, I think, is something really important. I hope that more people, businesses are going to be, sharing their COVID story. And I think for a lot of people, that story is still happening right now. So I think it's going to be different timing for everybody in different circumstances. But I know for us, we have definitely been on a journey together as a team, Kristen and I, certainly as business owners together, but also just as a team for, the last, what's crazy to believe, we are quickly approaching the 1 year anniversary of the shutdown for the pandemic. So we thought the timing was kind of perfect. So I'm going to kind of flip it over to Kristen, and I'm going to have her kind of share some context about what led up to March of last year, and kind of we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So, hey everyone, it's great to be here. Coming out of 2019, we were feeling pretty strong as a business, feeling pretty solid. We got our footing, had our learning moments, really were coming to tackle the year with a vengeance. Really felt strong about our business plan and super excited to take on the year. Long about January, February, we started hearing, stories about COVID from China, and it started popping up on the news, this virus that was coming. It didn't really hit home for us. We didn't really know, what is this? Is it going to affect us personally? Is it going to affect our families? Is it going to affect our business? I think everybody was kind of in the same boat, wondering how or if this was going to affect us. We pretty quickly learned in the middle of March how it was going to start to affect families as everything got shut down. And on the business front, we were also right at the point of signing contracts with two new clients. So that's part of what we do. We're always, doing our recruiting work, and we're always prospecting for new clients and bringing on new contracts. And we were right at the execution point of two new contracts, and they put the brakes on pretty quick. When COVID hit and everything got shut down, they were scared. And the first thing that they're going to do is stop hiring, when we don't know how things are going to affect the economy. So we pretty quickly learned how it was going to affect our business.
We were sharing, kind of the same shock that everybody else was, but I also would say that one of the things that I'm always so impressed about is just our resilience and our adaptability on our team. We maybe spent a moment, a couple hours literally, where we said, whoa, okay, what is this going to mean? What could this mean? And we very quickly shifted gears into going into this other mode about let's just do it. Let's figure it out, and let's continue to move forward. So what we really did was we decided to say, okay, number one most important thing for us was to protect our team, to protect our people. What do we have to do to ensure that the team and all the people on our team that's relying on us to take care of their families, to pay their bills, to put food on the table for their kids, even if it was at the expense of us cutting our own salaries, we were prepared to do whatever it is that we needed to do. But the other part of it is okay, well, just because we do that, we still need client work and things to do. It wasn't like we were just going to be handing out charity necessarily. There had to be work to be done. We were very fortunate, and I kind of call it a double-edged sword. There was one side of it where we felt man, we're so lucky. We have already been working as a remote company, and we're watching all these other businesses who were so anti-remote working, culture, that they were forced into it. And they weren't set up from a technology perspective. There was a lack of trust in their environment. That wasn't our situation. Our situation from day one had been 100% remote working. We had all the technology, the systems, the best practices, the processes, the workforce management, all of that was in place for us already. So that was a non-issue. The other big advantage I think that we had in this situation was that we had companies that we were working with and supporting who happened to be in industries that were thriving during the pandemic. So consumer packaged goods companies, specifically food manufacturing. We had home improvement companies. We had technology companies that, again, their services and resources were even more in need during the pandemic. So we had kind of three bread and butter clients that thankfully saw us through in the bare minimum need that we have, but certainly was not paying the bills, right? So, but we did have, again, double-edged sword. We had at least, a decent foundation there. So we had all this time, long and short of it. We were certainly over-resourced at that point for the amount of work that we had. So we really took advantage of it. And we did things that we didn't have time to do before because we're so lean and hyper-efficient. We built out training and development. We built out a new website. We also saw opportunities to improve best practices. We put in so many resources and different operational components, and we really shifted like a good portion, I'd say about 40% of our workforce over to that focus on the operational side. We saw opportunities for people to grow in terms of their development into new positions and roles in the future with the company. So that was how we spent our time. But we also recognized during that time, this is all about adaptability. So how do we prepare for circumstances like this in the future? Well, we have another business line. We played around with a couple of ideas. Ultimately, as I already shared, the outcome of this was building out a new division called Virtual Support Services. But we were still just in the think tank at that point, trying to figure this out and figure out what we were going to do. But the other piece of this, and I'm going to let Kristen address this because this was a huge component, like never to be underestimated, was at the end of the day, no matter how good our intentions are to protect our people, no matter how resourceful and adaptable we are, money is still needed for a business to run. It's a necessary evil, in many ways. So at that point it was, okay, we're being told that there's all this assistance that's supposed to come our way as a small business. Not only are we a small business, we're a small business with 10 or less employees, with a female-owned company and a minority-owned company. We really kind of fell into this category that a lot of people under our same exact circumstances didn't have the knowledge or the resources to put towards tracking down COVID assistance. But thankfully, we had Kristen. So talk a little bit about your experience.
We had both of us.
That.
Angela's the brains behind the operation. So there were two things that we had to tackle. One was making sure that we had work for our team members to do to keep them intact, which Angela just talked about. And two was, okay, if we're not bringing on new business, we need to figure out how we're going to bring the income in. So we started hearing, as Angela mentioned, about the COVID assistance that our leaders were announcing, from the president all the way down to the local leaders. And we were like, how do we tackle this? And I think we just dedicated like pretty much 80% of my time in the spring.
Hundreds of hours.
Was dedicated to really figuring out, what is this assistance? Where is it? How do we get it? Do we qualify? As Angela just shared, we quickly realized that we absolutely qualified. We were definitely, meeting all of the criteria of the small businesses that they were saying that this assistance was for. So we fill out our applications and nothing, crickets. We don't hear a word.
How many times did you
how many times am I following up with the different organizations that were offering the assistance?
No, but how many times did you have to refill out the application?
Oh my gosh, they would lose the application in the system. Their systems were going down. So basically what I quickly learned was the leaders were saying, we're here to help small businesses and we're going to help you. Here's how many millions of dollars we're rolling out to the SBA and different organizations to help you. And then the organizations that are responsible for channeling this money and issuing these loans and grants and everything else that was out there, they were scrambling. They didn't know what they were doing. First of all, they were being sent home to work and they had never worked remotely before. So they're learning how to work, move their laptop from, to their houses and figure out how to work. And what does that look like when their kids are home? So they're just like us, right? They're working from home as well. Not to mention their systems could not handle the overabundance of applications that they were receiving. Their systems were crashing, their people were crashing. It was just a complete nightmare. So we realized about 2 months in, we literally hadn't heard anything from these applications.
But we did hear one thing, like a lot of other small businesses heard. What we did hear was from the news that the money was nearly gone. We're hearing that billions of dollars that was supposed to go into the payroll protection program and into the SBA EIDL loan was almost gone. And I just remember, if anybody was around me at the time, I was furious. I was thinking to myself, how is this possible? And it started to surface, right? That
Large
how many corporations
were getting a hold of the money, friends,
from their banks, from the relationships with their banks.
It was a mess. So we quickly pivoted again and re-strategized every week, every day. We were having these, knocking our brains type of conversations to figure out what's next. So we started writing letters. We started writing letters from everything from the White House down to the local senators and everything in between. The governor's office, the congressmen, the local news outlets, the national news outlets. We were just reaching out to anybody that would.
And by the way, we were reaching out. We were literally sending out threatening letters. Like that's how far we took it.
Saying, we know that we qualify for this money. What are you doing? What are you going to do to help us? Mm-hmm. So I want to give a shout out to Senator Van Hollen's office. They were one of the very few that did respond to us and quickly got a hold of leaders at our bank. And our file landed on the right desk and we were able to get the assistance that we needed. But I'm telling you, it took countless hours of chasing and tackling and strategizing and redoing and reaching out to anybody under the sun. And great, we were able to get the funding that we needed, and we had projects designed for our team members to do. So we were able to navigate through this and keep our team intact. But what about, like, our hearts could not help but break, and I get emotional talking about this. Our hearts couldn't help but break for these mom and pop shops, these small organizations who, it's literally a husband and a wife running this shop or whatever it is that their business is, and they don't have a person to put on this mission to go tackle the COVID assistance. They don't even have really the strategic mindsets to be able to do this. They're closing their doors. They're laying people off. They're closing their doors. They're hanging up their hat. And it's just this, it truly is just heartbreaking. So thank God we were able to navigate the situation and get what was out there for us to be had. And so that we were able to continue to navigate the year. And
I mean, not just that, I think it was also like talking about how we really intelligently use the money that we got, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Being able to take what was supposed to be 8
weeks worth of payroll expenses. We stretched that out over almost 20 weeks, and really had our team working on things to leverage our business. Like Angela shared earlier, our team was working on training manuals and website development and enhancement and best practice captures and all the things that we were working on to really position ourselves. So lo and behold, long about July, I think Angela started getting interview requests, right?
Yeah, so it was, I would say, something, if people don't know this, one of the huge advantages working in the recruiting industry is that we've got about a 3 to 4 month kind of psychic crystal ball prediction into the future of the economy. And not only is it very telling when employers are hiring and starting to put out more jobs, but specifically when they start hiring recruiters. And so that's why we tend to see it before, the average person does, unless you happen to work in the recruiting industry. And so it's been interesting. It is truly a crystal ball. And what happened for us was, after what's this crazy, I mean, literally in the first time in 8-year history of our company, we went 3 solid months without one single interview from our prospecting efforts. And I interview for new contracts. 3 months. So this was a shock, but again, not like a surprise in terms of what was going on. So next thing you know, we finally started getting confirmations with interest to interview in early July. We picked up finally for the first time in all those months a new contract in July. And then we slowly each week, we started picking up more and more steam. By the time we hit end of August, we were interviewing steadily at least once or twice a week. We were starting to head back towards picking up again 1 or 2 contracts by the time August and September hit. And then by the time early October hit, I was running a pace that was actually greater in terms of interviewing than even at the beginning of the year pre-pandemic. I was pacing at 3 to 5 interviews a week. So
yeah, these businesses were coming out of their fog.
Yeah, I think exactly. They were saying like, hey, wait a second. Oh my gosh, we've had enough time to try to like make any adjustments we have to. We still have a business to run here. How are we going to prepare to come out of this in 2021? And I think by the time early October hit and the fourth quarter and whatever salvaging that they could do for last year, they started to scramble and started to try to hire on some folks. I think a lot of employers also realized that the folks that they furloughed or laid off, they thought that they were going to be able to bring people back, but the return rate was at like 30 to 40%. So there was a lot of people who they had to make so many adjustments in their lives after getting laid off, and they were receiving pretty substantial unemployment checks, and they had to deal with virtual learning or kids that didn't have childcare. There were so many adjustments that there was a lot of people who just at the end of the day chose to remain unemployed because they didn't know how to make it work to come back to work, So there was a lot of moving parts in fourth quarter of last year. And as a result of that, I think contract solutions end up being a better option than trying to hire on permanent full-time recruiters who they may or may not continue to have jobs for 6-12 months down the road. So things picked up for us, hot and heavily. Before we headed out we always take a break between Christmas and New Year's every year. It's our recharge time. We all knew we were coming into like really crazy amount of work between launching all these things that I mentioned earlier and a new line of business. And then on top of it, all the contracts we had already had lined up to return to. We've also had this awesome uptick of really understanding the value of our innovative fourth methodology of recruiting, where we've had a lot of return contracts. So companies we worked with before that have reached back out to us and said, oh my gosh, a need for an innovative solution is more critical than ever.
It's always a good sign when clients come back, because it means we did something right the first time.
Exactly. We started to really truly, I mean, now to a great degree, we're already in recovery. I don't think that we're still anticipating it. Now, of course, we hope we stay strong and steady, to say the least, from this point. But, we're just going to continue to power through, and that's what we do. But, I mean, Kristen, if, I remember back in November, like, what would you say? We kind of went into like a grading ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, as the year was winding down, we had a chance to really reflect on what just happened, like what whirlwind did we just come out of, and thinking about where we were a year prior, where we were coming into the year 2020 with such a strong plan, and then so many things threw us off track. And at the end of the year, we always take time before we go on Christmas break to really reflect on how did the year go. And I have to tell you, hands down, it probably is going to go down in history as one of the years that I'm going to be most proud of in my career. The way that we were able to navigate these awful situations and these uncharted, I don't want to use the word unprecedented, so I started saying uncharted, these uncharted waters, how we were able to navigate that. The fact that Angela and I, we run a business with our life values. We run a business where we truly care about each and every, I truly can say that I love each and every person on our team, and then I love their families. And so to be able to come out of this year and know that we kept that intact, and that we came out stronger than ever, and we literally have the dream team, and we're getting the business to now be able to, trust me, we're hustling right now. Every single person's working to their max capacity. So I'm so proud of the way that we navigated the year, and I'd give us a very strong grade.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, I would like A++++ across the board. And by the way, that grade has nothing to do, and I get it, a lot of companies, there's so
she grades
money.
Hard. She doesn't just take it easy.
Exactly. But I get it that a lot of other companies are all about the revenue, and they're all about the dollars, and they're not focused on their people. But for us, that's not who we are. And when I look back on this year, I think, we can always head held high and sleep well at night, and know that the reason that we did recover the way we are is just boils down to business savvy, but also down to karma. Believe in whatever you believe in the universe, but I'm a believer in karma for sure. And I feel like, so much of what we were able to do and navigate is because our priorities were ethically in the right place.
Yeah, 100%. And to boot, our revenue, I'm not going to talk numbers, but coming out of a year like we just did, no, we didn't do as good in 2020 as we did in 2019, but we still did better than we did in 2018. And that's something to be pretty proud of too.
Definitely.
And I'm just super, super proud of our team. And talking about karma, not only when they see the kind of dedication, the fierce determination that we had to keeping our team intact, they're working harder too, and they're out there prospecting their butts off every day. And it really is a team effort and a joint effort.
I mean, I don't think I spent a day in 8 years, but I certainly haven't spent a day in the last year wondering or worried if every team member isn't dedicated or doing what they need to do. Haven't spent a second. And I certainly had a pretty tough end of the year in 2020. I was in a position that needed, my team to have my back with this, and they were there for me through it all, and so needless to say, never so proud. Truly, it's an honor, for all my team members that are out there right now. Let me just say, it is an honor to have you in my life. It's an honor to have you on the team. I couldn't be more proud of who we are and what we represent and what we stand for. And I have every confidence in the world that we have an incredible year ahead of us. And listen, guys, if my team was able to survive a pandemic, and not just survive, but thrive, we can do anything.
We can do anything. Decided to break your leg in the middle of it all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why not?
Oh no, not at the beginning, not in the middle of it all, but at the end of it all, to really top off the year.
Yeah, finish it off on the right broken note. So anyway, thank you guys all for joining us. Thank you for listening to our story again. I really hope that more and more people do this. I hope that you share your story, your personal story, your family stories, especially like our healthcare workers and our educators and people who were just really directly impacted by this. Like, share your stories. I would love to hear it. I hope you benefited in some way, shape, or form from hearing our COVID story. Look forward to seeing you on the other side, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye, everyone.